So my name's Brady, and today I'm going to be interviewing the artist Stuart Frost. So Stuart Frost, Iris, your latest piece of your commission for the Burghley Sculpture House. Could you just tell me a little bit how you got the name for the piece?
The name came about through looking up, well, obviously the design that's been put on this, the fleur de lis. And in Elizabethan times, obviously Burghley has been in Elizabethan manner, they used to call it Iris fleur de lis.
Okay, cool. Knowing that the piece was site-specific, which is more or less every single piece that you do, how much preliminary research did you undertake before arriving at Burghley House?
It's not easy to do a lot of research when all you can get is obviously things over the net, but I mean there were certain books that were available, but more about the house and less about the gardens. Although I did read about Capability Brown that did some of the work here in the planting of the trees in the formal garden. But without actually being here, it's not easy to consider a site-specific work. But using the experience I've had from other projects, I think I brought that with me, so that's helped.
How did you get the commission at Burghley House?
I have to think back a bit, but I think initially I contacted Mike Shaw, the curator and the director of the sculpture park here at Burghley, and asked him what or how they commissioned artists for site-specific works. And through that I got a reply from him and sent in a proposal, and it grew from there.
In pretty much all of your works, is there a reason why you use ephemeral materials as opposed to a long-lasting material such as stone?
I think the materials that I use are often materials that don't actually involve a lot of cost to myself perhaps, but there's another costs involved obviously because you have to go and find them, and the logistics, especially with a piece like this, of movement. But when you're working in a place like Burghley, obviously you have tractors and things like that, so that's not the issue. But I mean, obviously I'm interested in sustainability for one thing, and showing people what is sort of inherent in materials. So I play with things as well and try and develop the things that are naturally involved in the materials.
Interesting. So how do you develop your techniques, and how do you balance the time in order to develop new techniques?
Time, yeah. I don't to develop new techniques. I mean, I don't think developing new techniques is a point, but actually that one thing can grow from another, and a combination of lots of different methods and experience can culminate in something. So the development often happens maybe more through a natural process in a sense, as long as you can keep going and spending time on it. The worst thing for artists obviously is having a big break between projects. So if you can keep the continuity, you can often build on things. But I mean obviously it's important to renew things or do new works and not just carry on with things that you've done before. So you have to, it's difficult. I think everybody knows it's not easy.
What is it that draws your attention to working in the natural environment?
I think the variety. Because you've got variety. I mean, I live in Norway, and I mean, just looking around this park, I mean, I grew up in England. I mean, now it's looking at these huge trees. They're sort of monumental sculptures in themselves. And in Norway, we don't really have that type of thing. So travelling from one country to another, you suddenly start realising how rich and varied the natural world is.
Have you ever had an urban commission, and if you were to get an urban commission, how would you go about doing that?
I don't really think I've had what you'd call an urban commission, meaning in a cityscape or something like that. I don't know. I mean, maybe you'd research it in a similar way that I research these projects. Go and look at the area, see if there's something that you could do there, or add to it, or say something about a specific place.
Oh, yeah.
But that'll have to wait and see if that comes up. But I mean, I don't often apply for urban projects.
Cool. Have you got an artist manifesto?
Now that's a big question. Not a written one. But, I mean, okay. I mean, everybody's interested in new technologies and finding new sources of renewable energy or sustainability. So I'm working along those lines.
Cool. When you first left university, did you have a plan? And did you know then what the materials and what sort of sculpture you were willing to make?
I think at the time when I studied, I was using natural materials. Again, purely because they were available to me at no cost or no great cost. But as having a plan, I think things progress naturally. I mean, I lived in London then, and that didn't really suit me. So to move back to an area more within the nature to gather those things seemed to be an obvious thing to do, and not, as perhaps most people would do, hit the big city and then try and afford enough money to rent a studio and call yourself an artist when you haven't got the time to use it because you're working all the time to make the money to pay for a studio. So I was fortunate in that sense that I didn't need all those expenses. My studio was outdoors.
Right, excellent. So the final question is, if you could offer any advice to students who want to be an artist, what would that be?
Get a life. I mean, of course. I mean, it's one of the best things you can do. And I mean, reports or things have shown that people that take creative education are more likely to get on well in whichever area they decide to work in afterwards, whether it can be a full-time artist or not. So I mean, everyone would probably say, no, you shouldn't go to art school, don't do that, you'll never make anything out of it. But I think you will make something out of it, and you shouldn't put people on. If that's what you want to do, go for it 100%, and things will work out fine.
Right, excellent. Well, thank you very much for your time, Stuart Frost.
You're welcome.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Lee.
Good luck to the future.
Thanks for your help on the project.
You are welcome.